I have a slew of winter updates about Washington, D.C. travel and tourism. So make sure you stick around to the end of the video so you don't miss anything important. Hello, my name is Rob. I'm a tour guide and the founder of Trip Hacks DC Tours. On this channel, I share my best tips, tricks, and hacks for exploring Washington, D.C. And over at triphacksdc.com, you'll find info about tours and more. As the calendar turns to December 2020, the Washington, D.C. tourism industry is still badly hurting from the coronavirus. And now that cases are surging across the country, things are starting to reclose and the uncertainty is back. So I'm going to run through a bunch of updates so that you know what's happening this winter. And I'm curious to know what you think about the state of travel and tourism right now. So leave a comment down there and let me know how you're feeling. And this is not going to be the last of these update videos. So what I need you to do is make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification icon so that you don't miss any of them in the future. With that said, let's get started. The biggest change since my last update is that the mandatory 14-day self-quarantine for visitors from high-risk states has basically been scrapped and replaced with a new order that requires a negative COVID test to visit. So the simplified version of how it works is that you need to get tested at home within 72 hours of your departure. If the COVID test comes back negative for everyone in your traveling group, then you can come to Washington, D.C. If you're going to be here for 3 or fewer days, then you're all good. If you're going to visit for more than 3 days, then you need to get another COVID test between 3 and 5 days after you arrive, which you can do at any of the free testing sites in D.C. Hey, this is Editor Rob, interrupting because I realized that there's a question that I forgot to address that I'm sure is going to pop up in the comments if I don't. No, there will not be checkpoint enforcement at the airport, the train station, or the city border. However, this order does give the ability to hotels, universities, and other businesses to require proof of a COVID test for anyone who's visiting from out of town. Now, whether they actually do this will probably depend on just how bad COVID cases get over the next few weeks. But regardless, you should get the test because it's the responsible thing to do and because you might need it once you get here. Okay, back to the main video. The other thing to remember is that Washington, D.C. has a universal mask mandate. So anytime you're outside your home or your hotel room, your face has to be covered. Okay, let's go to a big batch of Christmas and holiday updates because things are going to be a lot different this holiday season than they have been in the past. Unfortunately, the Trip Hacks DC Christmas tour has been canceled this year. Private tours will continue to be offered on a case-by-case basis by request only. So check out the Trip Hacks DC website if you're interested in tours. The National Christmas Tree Lighting is scheduled for December 3rd. The ceremony will be live streamed, but there will not be a live audience. The National Tree is located on the Ellipse, just to the south of the White House. After the 3rd, it will be lit each night in December. One thing I will say is that historically, this tree is very popular and gets big crowds, and I'm not entirely sure yet how the park rangers are going to manage that. So give yourself plenty of time and be patient if you want to check it out. Down on the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue, the Capitol Christmas tree will be set up on the west lawn. It will be slightly farther away from the building this year, as they're still continuing to set up for inauguration. I personally think the Capitol tree is bigger and better than the National Tree, and usually has smaller crowds and more space to spread out. Nearby, the U.S. Botanic Gardens has been closed since March, and their holiday Season's Greetings event has been significantly scaled back. There will be some outdoor decorations on the exterior of the building and across the street at Bartholdi Park, but all of the indoor exhibits and special events will not happen. The National Zoo is currently closed, but even before the zoo closed, they announced that there would be no zoo lights at the zoo itself. Instead, there will be a Zoo Lights truck decorated with lights that will travel around to different neighborhoods on a schedule. Georgetown Glow, the neighborhood light display, will not do a show this year. They said instead they will shift the light show to next summer. If you like to ice skate to Christmas carols, the bad news is that almost all of the ice rinks, including the one on the National Mall, are canceled this year. And Enchant Christmas at Nationals Park is also canceled. The downtown holiday market is planning to run. This year, they say they will take over 2 full downtown blocks, which is welcome news to me because in the past, it got extremely crowded in the space that they used to use. Next, let's check in on our museums. Smithsonian has closed back down as of November 23rd. This includes all Smithsonian museums and, as I mentioned, the National Zoo. While this is quite disappointing, it's not surprising. The Secretary of the Smithsonian, Lonnie Bunch, said that if cases spiked, they would close. And cases spiked, and they closed. The National Gallery of Art and the Ford's Theater Museum have also reclosed. Some of the private paid museums are still open, but it's incredibly important to double and triple check a few days before your visit to confirm operating status. And remember that just because a museum is open, it doesn't necessarily mean that all of the exhibits are open. Let's turn to the other big sector of DC tourism, the federal sites. Some federal sites, like Arlington Cemetery and the Washington Monument, have reopened, and at least, as of today, have not reclosed. Other sites have been closed since March. These include the National Archives, Library of Congress, Capitol Building, Bureau of Engraving and Printing, and the Old Post Office Tower. Next, let's talk about what's going on with restaurants. Restaurants are getting hit hard, and at the time of this video, Congress has still not passed a relief bill to help out small businesses. So there are many big question marks about how restaurants are going to survive the winter. I'm sad to report that the number of restaurants that have already permanently closed continues to grow. Restaurants in DC are currently allowed to operate both indoor and outdoor dining with restrictions. Indoor dining is being reduced from 50% to 25% capacity. A grant program has allowed some restaurants to purchase additional heaters to help accommodate outdoor dining. But depending on how harsh our winter is, it's unclear whether heaters are going to be enough. Some restaurants have installed these clear outdoor enclosures on the sidewalk or the curb. It's honestly not clear to me how exactly this is safer than indoor dining, but it's an option if you're interested. Takeout is still my preferred way of getting food from restaurants. So even if you don't want to eat at a restaurant, takeout is your next best option. If you want to see some of my favorite takeout spots, I made a video on that topic, so check out the description for the link. Lastly, Inauguration is happening on January 20th. At noon on that day, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will be sworn in as the next president and vice president. There are still a lot of details pending, but in the meantime, I made a video with the preliminary information that we know today, including how to request inauguration tickets if you're interested. Link to that video will be in the description. And hey, if you made it this far, then I highly recommend another Trip Hacks DC video. So go ahead and click or tap right over here to watch the next one. And if you're planning to eventually come and interested in signing up for a Trip Hacks DC guided tour, you can click or tap on the Capitol Dome on the left side of my head. That'll send you right over to triphacksdc.com where you can see all of the tours that we offer. Enjoy your trip!